And welcome to the Two Medics podcast. Just a quick shout out to our sponsors, mah.uk.com for medical accountancy needs, and also to Lifeline Healthcare Group.co.uk for the best locum rates. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Two Medics podcast. My name is Imran Lasker. I'm a consultant radiologist.
And hi, I'm Trusha Gunawardena. I'm a cardiology registrar subspecialising in intervention.
So how you been, Trusha? What's been going on this week?
Good. This week, so I'm currently on my day off, and I've got another day off tomorrow where I start nights over the weekend. So this week, 3 days I was in the lab. Each one of those days.
That sounds riveting.
It was good, man. It was good, actually. I was saying to Joe, I don't often talk about work and stuff, but I was it's been a good 3 days. Got to do quite a lot of PCI, and that for me is quite enriching. But now I'm kind of getting to that bit where I'm a bit jittery because I know tomorrow, even though it's kind of towards the end of tomorrow I'll be starting night, so I'm already starting to get that kind of feeling of dread. How about yourself?
Yeah, same old, just chilling, I guess. I've been like I was saying to you, I've been trying to figure out. No, have I said this to you? I've been trying to figure out how to make my normal life more enjoyable. Does that make sense? It sounds silly, but I was trying to think about all the things I like to do when I'm on holiday. Yeah. And how I can try and introduce that more into my normal life. And so, what I was thinking to myself, okay, when I'm on holiday, I like to go to the gym, actually go physically to a gym and visit a place. I'm starting to try and go to a gym outside my house, trying to eat out a little bit more, kind of, because otherwise work just becomes work. You think, okay, so I'm going to just work. I look forward to going on holiday if I go on holiday, and then I come back and work. How do I make it more of a normal thing to have, in things that I enjoy?
That sounds like something from a kind of self-help book.
No, straight from my mind. That's an Imran original. They've got a little soft play in there and stuff.
Oh, do they? Oh, did you take the kids?
Yeah.
Did you go as a family?
Yeah.
Oh,
We do, yeah. It's really good. I'd highly recommend going to a gym that the whole family can go to. Is a really good idea. Because you can book out a badminton court and you'll play badminton, and the little one doesn't play badminton. He just runs around the whole time. But just doing little physical things, become a bit more physical and doing stuff together. Fine, we go swimming. During the summer we went swimming quite regularly. Badminton every few days. They've got that soft play inside. I mean, there's just loads of things to do, and it just means that you get out and do something. And that's what I mean about when you think when we're in Australia, I used to think to myself these guys in Australia, and maybe the people who listen to us can confirm or refute, I felt as though for them to be active is a lot easier than it is for us in the UK, because in the UK the weather's not great, and especially in London it's kind of a bit crammed. There's not so much to do, but over there, most people living on the coast, you go swimming, you can run down the beach and all that stuff, and I felt as though they were generally healthier. But then how do you make that more a part of your life? And so the way to make that more of a part of your life is to reduce as many barriers as it would for you to be able to do something. Right. So the barrier for us to, I don't know, go to a gym, generally speaking, is you've got to physically go out. But if you decide to go with a family and make it a proper thing together, then it's easier. Things like that. So I've been thinking along those lines, trying to see if I can, make things more fun.
That's really good. I mean, I go to the gym, which is 24 hours, but I don't. Joe doesn't really enjoy it, and also, I don't think. I mean, trying to do family memberships. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah. But I mean, they've got loads of classes like yoga, and they've got loads of classes you can go to for free and stuff. And so, Rabbi sometimes goes to some of those. So, I mean, these are the things that you'd be doing on holiday, wouldn't you? You'd turn up to the hotel, you go to the gym, you find out what class they got, maybe wake up a little bit early, go to the class, come back, eat something nice. And I just think it's a shame that I've not until recently tried to see if I can bring some of those enjoyable things out and into normal life. So that normal life, it sounds really weird, but I'm trying to make my normal life more like a holiday rather than
that makes complete sense.
Why
would you only spend 3 weeks a year, I don't know, on doing when you can spread out throughout the year? It makes way more sense.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, it does.
So when I was thinking about the costing of it, because obviously it's another expense, but then I thought, okay, hang on, if I go away for a week, it's going to cost me this much, right? Or I can spend similar amounts for the entire year to have all the things some of the things that I enjoy from being on holiday for the entire year. So why not try that for a year and see how it goes? And for me anyway, it's been a really positive thing. The other thing is I also got a speeding fine, which is great.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know, mate. Honestly,
how fast are you going?
35.
What? Are you in a 30? Oh man.
But you know what? Like, I was worried, man, because I've already got 6 points on my license. So that'd be another 3. That's 9. Yeah. So I only need another 3 and I'm done. I was really stressed out. And, you know, I was thinking, what am I going to do? Like, if I lose my license, I've got no other option but to actually get myself a driver to get me around. Like, what am I going to do?
God. I think there is a thing where I think there are some. I mean, I'm not encouraging anyone to do this, but I think there are some exceptions they've made for doctors when they've had 12 points in their license for this kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, your insurance. I mean, I had 9 points. I think I've now must have dropped down. Hopefully, I think I put it in my diary somewhere to remind myself of when I got back down to like 6 points again. You know, like, oh, okay, so like 4 years from now.
Yeah, Rabia was like, honestly, what are you going to do? She was like, what are you going to do if you lose your license? And then I quickly logged in, and it turns out the 6 points I had before literally disappeared in August this year. So I went 6 to 0 to now back to, it's going to be 3, isn't it? It's going to be 3.
Maintenance.
And they're going to make me sit through that silly speed thing.
Oh, that's way better.
No, I might just pay them. Like, look, forget it. Just forget it. I'm just going to give you money. I don't have time to sit around and listen to this drivel. I'm just joking.
What?
Yeah, just playing around.
You're just a busy man. You've got places to go.
Exactly. I can't be sitting around in one place for 3 hours. Like, what do you take me for?
Yeah.
So what's been going on? I mean, this has been a tough week, hasn't it, Thrusha? I think that there's a few things been going on this week that I think you felt and I felt that we should maybe talk about. Do you think? Like the whole... seeing some of the social media reaction to the Queen passing away. Do you want to talk about
that? Yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of moved on a bit now, hasn't it? Like,
yeah,
it's stuff to do with, I mean, the queuing to see her, I guess, and the endless coverage of that, like to see the coffin. But generally, the things that have kind of been getting me have been the incessant and endless analysis of like Meghan Markle's body language. I mean, there was something like whether she was like holding Harry's hand at some point, and then they were like, "Oh, she can't stop touching him." And I saw another one where it was like, "Oh, she's smirking at one point. She's smirking," and all these kind of like all this stuff, this endless like reading into stuff that she's doing, she's just like existing, but this kind of like narrative and characterization of every single little thing she does is just mind-blowing to like watch. I feel so bad for her. It makes me feel that it's I mean, it's obviously just like racist, isn't it? But as in to me, or at least to anyone with any sense anyway, it's obviously racist. And that's the other issue is that you can't, for some people it's obviously not obvious, and then having to have that, or having to see those exhausting conversations where people are trying to spell it out for them, that's been like, yeah, unpleasant.
I mean, I think it's difficult. It must be a difficult position for them to be in because, I mean, I don't know. I'll go down memory lane for a minute. So like on Fridays, especially when I was younger, I used to actually physically go to the mosque to go pray. And during maybe summer holidays, I think someone said there was someone's funeral going and maybe I should go. It was literally at the end of prayers. And then I thought, well, it's not that far. And plus I kind of do know the family from far away. I might as well just turn up and, pay my condolences. And so I turned up, and then it turned out two of my mates I hadn't seen in a while were there. So then they were doing the funeral, they finished the funeral, and it was really heartbreaking to watch, genuinely. Like, I think what happened was a mother had passed away, and then within months it turned out the father had some sort of tumor, and then he passed away, like within months of it. It was really, and it was hard to like be there. But I mean, for me anyway, these are always good reminders as well, on a selfish point of view, that, life is so finite, and you should be careful about how you spend your time, etc., etc. But while they were burying the person, all the uncles and aunties and everyone around started talking to one another, having like what felt like a normal conversation. So then I saw these two guys, and I haven't seen you guys in ages. So we're just talking, really catching up. And then I think one of the guys said something quite funny. So I started laughing. And so the other guy, and then the daughter walked over to us and said, "How dare you come here and start laughing?" And I was like, "No, sorry. I mean, I didn't mean it like that. Like we were just talking." And she goes, "Look, we're trying to have a funeral here. If you want to laugh on one, you get lost." And I thought, whoa, okay, well, I mean, this didn't really go the way I wanted to do, or I guess I made a mistake. I didn't think about, you just kind of get stuck in the moment. You're with your mates you haven't seen in a while, you forgot what you are, and so I swiftly left, and I didn't think it was a big deal. But there was loads of conversation about amongst the community. Oh, Imran turned up to this wedding, was very rude, and all this kind of thing. It's just, I mean, at the time I was upset, but now you look back and yeah, fair enough. I probably should have acted better. But someone like her in the spotlight, that she will not be able to remotely I mean, she must constantly be on guard. No smirks, no sudden movements, no grimaces, no worried looks. Can you imagine what that must be like to be under the spotlight like this?
Awful, isn't it?
Exhausting, just exhausting. I'm not surprised she's trying, or as far as I can tell, trying to leave the entire thing behind. But
Yeah. And even in trying to do that was something else. She would have stressed the queen out with that behaviour. This kind of stuff. It's just.
Is that? Oh, I didn't hear that argument. That's interesting. Okay, well, they can twist anything. I think these days people are up for entertainment. Everything's entertainment, right? And so these people are entertainment. That's why they've got the reactions that they do, and they lap it up on some level because that's where the money comes from. But yeah, I think when people react to them in that way, I don't think they see them as people. I think they're just part of the big TV show that they're watching on the tabloids. You wouldn't do that to a real person, would you? It's not real. You wouldn't do that. I hope not, anyway. So anyway, I mean, you've got to be pretty resilient for that kind of thing, don't you, Trisha? Which kind of brings us onto one of the subjects, no?
Yeah, resilience. Oh God. Yeah. So there was a thread from an author who I really like. So I read his book, Adam Rutherford. He wrote this book which is called How to Argue with a Racist. And so he went to UCL. Word up, represent.
Yeah.
He was a geneticist, and he talks about how. Well, he basically deconstructs a whole load of like racist claims, for one thing, and he kind of said also he talks about the fallacy of racial distinctions. Anyway, I'm using inverted commas thing because it's and how it, I mean, he doesn't particularly talk so much about how it's a construct, although as he does in a sense that he says that it's kind of biologically baseless. But he's anyway an excellent author. But he did this thread, a short one, about Adam Kay. So he's someone else that we've kind of discussed before, about the TV show This Is Going to Hurt. So he's released another book called Undoctored. And if I just read out the thread, so it's from Dr. Adam Rutherford. He's also from Ipswich, interestingly, although I think he lives in London now. Good for him. Well done, mate, escaping Ipswich. I did... yeah. So last night to help launch his new book, Undoctored, is staggeringly funny. Like... line after line, utter filth, but also full of love and pathos, and profound insights into a medical system that encourages, bullies, and cajoles young people into a hard career, and then doesn't take care of them and breaks people. It's a culture that has to change. I've taught thousands of prospective actual medical students over the years, and most do not know what's in store for them, and many should never be doctors, because despite being brilliant at the oboe or at fly half, do not have the skills required for good doctoring. And crucially, will never be taught them. Anyway, it's an utterly brilliant book, even better than This Is Going to Hurt, and importantly, it should be read by anyone with a stake in healthcare, which means everyone. I kind of found that thread kind of difficult to read. Like, I kind of took that a little bit personally, especially I didn't play the oboe, I didn't play it fly half, but at the same time, he has a point, right? What do you think?
Very much so. Very, very much so. I mean, I don't know. I think this is a very accurate statement because I think, I've said this before, like I was inadvertently encouraged to go into medicine. Like if I said I wanted to be anything else, you'd be like, oh, okay. But when I said I want to be a doctor, you'd be like, oh, my son wants to be a doctor. It'd be like a big thing in the community. It was a big thing. Yeah. And so when I look back and honestly look back, why did I go into medicine? It was because of the societal my perception of a societal value of what a doctor was rather than what the actual doctoring is, right? And even when I did the work experience, I kind of just walked around. And, I mean, you were there during my work. I didn't take it particularly seriously. I just turned up because it's another one of those things to do. And most of the things you do to get into med school are just things to do to get yourself into med school. The more charitable things I used to do when I was a kid, like I didn't carry them on. I didn't do any of that stuff once I was in. So it clearly showed you as to why I did it in the first place. And so you fall into the idea about what doctoring means and what it means to your family and your society and stuff like that. And then when you're going through it all, you're thinking you're pretty smart and you're fairly smart to get there. And then you think you've done really well to finish. And then all of a sudden you're thrown at the deep end into being the bottom of the pile, having no idea what you're doing, dealing with situations you've never been in or even taught. And so I think this is actually really accurate. I think this is, I haven't found that particularly upsetting anyway, beyond just feeling like, you pretty much said what I've been feeling recently about medicine and being a doctor.
I was kind of thinking about, I didn't respond directly to it because I was thinking throughout the day, what exactly is it that I object to? Because I did agree that is a hard career, and it says about how it doesn't take care of you and it can break people. I think the thing that got me was when they go, many should never be doctors, and I think that bit kind of made me think, what? So you're talking to these people, and there's some quality that you've kind of picked up on, where you're like, this person should never be a doctor, and I think I found that kind of uncomfortable because, and I guess maybe it's then because they follow on saying, because despite being brilliant at the oboe or a fly half, do not have the skills required for good doctoring. And I just kind of wondered, did he mean that, like, when he's speaking to them, they just didn't seem like human characters? Like, they just didn't seem... I think it was that bit that kind of got me. It's gone on to say, we'll never be taught them. And I just kind of wonder then, is he talking about something that's kind of untangible and impossible to teach then? So there's that, which I'll let you respond to. But there's also a reply that I did respond to. But yeah, what do you think about that bit then?
Well, I think you've raised a really important point, because actually when I was, I might have mentioned it, but I joined a teleradiology company, and I found they were being really sort of picky and ripping apart my reports, and very unnecessarily. And I thought it was very strange. And I've been working for a while now, and I don't get these kind of strange sort of feedbacks. I called my friend up and I said to him, listen, and this is not that long ago, and I called him up and I said, listen, I've got an honest question to ask you, and I hope you don't mind me asking, but tell me, am I good or am I bad? Like, because normally I don't get this kind of feedback. So now I've joined this new company and they're ripping me apart here. Like, what is this? And then he goes, okay, I know you don't like this, but I'm going to ask you another question. What is good and what is bad?
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I see what you mean, because me writing, so from a radiologist point of view, and I'll bring it on to everyone else in a second. Sorry, everyone else. But like me talking about a meniscal tear, them missing a bit of a bone contusion or something, still means a person will get the meniscal tear surgery. So me talking about the intricacies of the way the bone is, or etc., doesn't make a huge difference. So if I didn't mention these things, that's a decent report. The outcome's good. Like, you still help someone. But if I write about all those things, someone will say, hey, that's a really good report, but the outcome's still the same. And in the same way that, for example, I've heard people say, I've got a really good GP. So what makes your GP so good? Oh, they just give me whatever I want. And it's like, okay, well, to me, that doesn't sound like a good GP, right? If you're just walking in and asking for antibiotics, just throw antibiotics at you, whatever scan you want, they just give it to you. To me, that's not a good GP. But the Joe Public or whatever may say, hey, I've got one of the best GPs ever. They really look after me. They throw everything at me when I ask for it. And so the concept of being good or bad is so vast.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
What is a good doctor and what's a bad doctor? Because your good might be my good, and your good might be my bad, and my bad might be your good. It just depends on perspectives, really, doesn't it? So for me, there's a doctor for everyone out there, really, because you said it yourself. You've been in a situation where you've explained too much, and they're like, you don't need to explain so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then you might be that kind of registrar who everyone thinks is really, really nice, but your bosses might be like, oh, man, that person just accepts everything, and it's always really busy because he always ends up finishing really late, I just kind of wonder, because it just seems so kind of, but there obviously is some quality that Dr. Rutherford felt meant that they shouldn't be doctors at all, which I was like, oh, okay.
There'll be extremes though, won't there? We've spoken about some individuals that we may know that we were like, this is bad. Like, I guess. I know, do you remember when we were trying to get into med school, we were stressed out how we're going to get in. And then I remember when a certain other person got in, I was like, if they got in, I'm definitely getting in. There's just no doubt about it now. Yeah. So that maybe that's what they're talking about, the extremes, because there are extremes, aren't there? Yeah. There are some. Yeah.
So then there was a reply that I did kind of respond to, where they said we need to have some sort of way of assessing levels of resilience, amongst other things, and pay less attention to those things like music, sport, prowess, which often reflect class, money, schooling. They're still valid, but not vital to being a doctor. And I think it's the kind of, when people start talking about resilience, that kind of does get my goat, because I'm like, actually, really, one of the problems I think is not about resilience, is about there not being enough support. Like, we're not soldiers, human beings.
Yeah.
And I think when people talk about, I don't think if you listen to junior doctors, they're not usually talking so much about the kind of psychological trauma of dealing with loss. And obviously that's going to be part of the job, but everyone has an idea of that in mind that's kind of that's the deal, isn't it, for certain parts of medicine. But it's the other stuff, the kind of the interpersonal stuff that happens within the profession, and the workload, the way you're treated by the stuff that happens with pay, or with taxes, or with the trying to take annual leave, or trying to book study leave, or all those other things that I think the support for is poor. That
Mm.
you shouldn't need to have resilience for, and I think that's the kind of issue, really.
I agree with you. I think resilience is an excuse to treat you badly.
Yeah,
As
absolutely.
in, if you treat badly and you lash out, they're like, well, they're not very resilient, are they? That's just the way they are. And I think I mean, they're misconstruing resilience. Resilience shouldn't be, oh, you know what? If you got to stay late, you got to stay late, and you got to stay all the way through the night. And you're not going to have we're going to have one less reg cover. You're going to be holding on to 3 bleeps, and then that shows how resilient it is. No, that's not resilience. That's other people. We've got rota gaps. And other people are not doing that. People are not doing their jobs. They should be filling these rota gaps. There should be more doctors. There should be so many things that should be happening. But they're going to say, oh, well, if you complain about it, it means you're not very resilient. It's just a way to keep you quiet, isn't it? I mean, that's me being cynical, I guess, again. But I mean, that kind of brings us onto the email that we had a deleted tweet, didn't we?
Yeah.
An email from, so someone is going to go on call. Do you want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, I'm petty enough to remember what the tweet was. So like someone is due to go on call, so they weren't actually on call. They were on their off days. In fact, this is a situation I'm in, but it's not actually me that's got it. Nobody would email me with this because it doesn't make any sense really to email me with this. But they got an email from a manager to say, just to remind you, we are aware that you're due to go on call in a few days' time. The hospital bed state situation is particularly bad, so please can you just prioritise discharge or bear this in mind.
I love those kind of things.
Yeah, so I think they kind of copied the email, or at least kind of mentioned this, and they said, this is on one of my off days as well. I'm not actually on call at the moment, but this is what I've been sent. And I think the responses were, there was kind of a whole spectrum of responses. I guess we can't see those now because they've been deleted. So they varied from people being like, oh, that is really annoying. Like, do you know off days as well? And also to, isn't that kind of obvious? Like there's always like a problem with beds and things. Like when you get told that, are they basically telling you to take on more clinical risk? Is that what they're asking you to do? Like what exactly are they wanting for you to do differently that you weren't already doing already? And on the other side, there are people going, oh, I obviously feel very much for the manager because they're obviously doing something that, they need to be seen to be doing something. And I'm like, what, need to be seen? So that's an excuse for being a dick, is it? Like, you need to be seen to be doing something. So, oh, yes, look, I was doing something. I was a dick to that person there. See? Yeah, pay me. I don't know.
No, I think, this is... have you heard this concept I heard about I think it came up on BBC or something, called quiet quitting? Have you heard of that? Yeah. And so it did make me wonder. I mean, I'm not saying that's what I've done right now, allegedly. But the thing is, like, how much do you really care? I mean, so if they email me about the backlog, say, oh, Imran, there's a massive backlog, right? A massive backlog. Like, am I going to suddenly run into work and start reporting like a madman because, there's a backlog? No, that's not my problem. That's your problem. And so, like, if the manager emails you and says stuff like that, okay, like water off duck's back, it doesn't matter. And we've talked about this before. Like when we used to turn up to A&E, people used to be really stressed out if it was really busy out there. But he's like, well, it's not my problem if it's busy out there. I can only see so many people at a time, so I just kept my normal rate. Like that's what you do. You don't start like seeing more and more because no one's going to pat you in the back. Like you may get like, oh, well done, mate. But if something goes wrong, they're on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the point?
I think
it's no point.
Think subconsciously, as a profession, a lot of junior doctors adopted it after the junior doctors contract. With exceptional.
I hope they have.
No, definitely, you do see it. Like you see it with junior doctors now, where they're much more comfortable. Completely rightly, exception reporting and being like, no, I finish at 5. I'm going to hand it over. Like they are much better at standing up for themselves than I would have been when I was at that stage. And I think there's an element of that, of realizing that, well, you know what, if my pay hasn't changed in how many years, and inflation's gone up, so I'm not getting paid the same value as my colleagues were years ago. Why should I be going the extra mile? That social contract has been broken. So I think people have been quiet quitting in a way for some time. It's just that this is kind of a nice word for it. But it's so funny, actually, because so we're seeing that as a concept, and it's nice to kind of give a word to describe a behavior. And I saw this video by this HR manager, and you could see it's like, I feel like it's like the response of like the capitalist corporate world where the stuff's coming out there, and it's hard not to see it as see it cynically. I saw it from like some HR consultant on TikTok, and I'm like, HR, good one. Oh yeah, and she's like, about quiet quitting, there's things you should know, because when I started, I was hungry. I was young and hungry, and I saw someone who basically had quiet quit, and I saw an opportunity there, and they're basically just trying this kind of almost reverse psychology thing, which is basically what people were doing beforehand, which is going the extra mile, staying late, because they were thinking, well, that they get rewarded by their workplace. But what they're seeing is that their workplaces are looking to cut margins, and if people are willing to do extra, take that for a ride and take that as far as it goes. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, let's give that person like a whole load of money. Like, that's not how these places work. And it's just really interesting to see videos like that. I saw another video which was like, oh yeah, people are doing that, but then these kind of behaviors, they can reflect badly. Like, say if you lose your job and then your credit score goes up, and all these things that they use, like, they dangle over the top of you to make you fear, like, oh, you'll get, if you quiet quit, you won't get promoted, or if you quiet quit or you lose your job, your credits, all these things they use to just kind of keep people, to squeeze everything out of them, whilst meanwhile they cut caps for bankers and whatever.
But this is the thing, like, I think I was talking to someone else about this, and they were kind of jokingly saying that, oh, apparently like the newer generation people, they don't get good at things, they don't stick it out, they quit too quickly, they're not willing to put the extra work in.
So good for them.
And I was like, yeah, surely that's good for them, though. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, but they just don't really get good at anything. Like, yeah, but and I said to them, but so what? Like, they get a job, but they continue to get paid. They go somewhere. Yeah, but then like nothing progresses. Like, what progresses? So most jobs.
Business.
Yeah, exactly. Most jobs are making someone else richer. Well, I know that because I run a business. So the people that if they do work, then they make me richer. They don't. I might give more, but like in reality, they're making someone else richer. And then if you're talking about like, making the new iPhone, like, okay, fine, we don't get the new iPhone for a bit longer because people can be bothered. Like, so what? It doesn't matter. Like, I'd rather people go home and watch Netflix and see their family and, spend genuine time with their family and friends and do things that they enjoy rather than give their life up to do this. There's more to life than this. So if it gets busy, you lot stop caring and just do your normal job and go, even if it's heaving out there, even if they're like, oh, you got to see more, pick up 4 cards, 5 cards. It's like, no, I'm not. I'm picking as many as I need to pick up and I'm going to keep moving on. You can't do anything for me.
Yeah, because those managers, they're not going to be there for you when you have to go to like a serious incident meeting, or if you have to go to coroner's court. They're not. They won't be anywhere to be seen. They'll be on their annual leave, mate. They'll be like, I'll respond to or email, when I get a chance.
Well, can you imagine what it would be like in coroner's court if they said to you, why did you do that? You said, oh, because I just picked up, it was really busy outside and I picked up loads of cards because they told me. Like, yeah, but it's still your decision to see that many people. You shouldn't be doing that. It's just not worth it. Absolutely not worth the risk.
Absolutely.
100% tell everyone, do not do that.
I feel like since Dr. Bauer-Garber, like, I think people have like realized that side of things as well. I mean, I think that really brought that into kind of stark realization for people.
Whatever happened to the consultant that was involved in that? Do we know?
Oh, do you not know?
When you read about that, no.
Did you know that what the consultant did, right? So he was like her educational supervisor.
Yeah, he kind of, I meet you up and then I'm going to write this stuff down.
Coffee.
I remember that.
Yeah. And then used that against her.
So what
he hotelled it to Ireland. He went to Ireland. He's like a consultant pediatric surgeon in... Oh, no, consultant pediatric. Yeah, he just moves. Yeah. Cool, isn't it? Nice one, mate.
Yeah, it got away with it, isn't it? Because I remember reading it, I was like, okay, so surely that sounds a bit dodgy. Like, what would happen to that person? Anyway, there was another tweet that came in from Layla Turkugu, who we've mentioned a few times on this podcast. I had a Reddit introduce himself to me as I am ST8, and I just thought it was the oddest thing. I replied, I'm Layla, 36 years old. He didn't find it that funny. It's strange, isn't it? Have we spoken about this? Like, what is our identity? And so when someone comes in and asks you, what do you do? Like, how far up the list do you say, I'm a doctor? Or is it the first thing? And unfortunately, a lot of the time, it's actually the first thing that we say that we do, right? And I wish it wasn't. But this person obviously values being the ST8, not just being a doctor, but they value the 8.
Well, yeah,
right?
Because
that's what it is.
That's because it's bigger than ST7, ST6, and it's going to be way better than ST3, like, 5 more numbers. Look,
ST7 sounds like a pop band, so maybe that's what they're so happy about. They moved on.
It's funny,
like the sequel.
It's recent. Recently, I had to do. I didn't have to do, but I did a talk. Not that recently. It's like January now. At the cardiology conference, and when I met with,
I'll check you out.
I know, right? Big deal. Yeah, big deal. I am. And then they were like, "Oh, so what level are you?" And I was like, "Oh, like I'm still because I'm still ST. I feel like awkward saying it. But I was like at ST5 at that point. And like, whoa, we thought you were way senior. And then I felt like really like, oh, okay. Because I'm old, I guess. So I guess there is, obviously there's some weight on it. So now ST6, but in the notes, I'll write cardiology SBR, and I've written that for some time. And when I call people up, I say I'm one of the cardiology doctors. And I think that's kind of funny because I feel like I'm reclaiming that for the F1s who call and say I'm the respiratory doctor, because I am hopefully contributing to the ambiguousness of that. So that therefore, because people otherwise assume when you say if I'm a cardiology doctor, they're like, oh, it's going to be the cardiology F1 because the cardiology reg will say they're cardiology reg. No, some of us will also say that. And so I hope you guys appreciate that. I'm doing it for
Mate,
you guys.
are you doing this on some level to be a bit like, oh, I hope they try and call me out? And I'll be like, no, I think you misunderstood. I'm far more senior than that.
Yeah.
Is that what you're doing, Trisha?
That's exactly it. And then I can talk about it on the podcast. That's exactly it. You've seen exactly.
I think once or twice I had someone call through to me and they're trying to give me like some sort of grief, and then I'm just not, I've just been very bit like, no, mate. And they're like, sorry. And they say, sorry, who am I speaking to? Yeah. And I was like, oh, you are speaking to Imran Lasker, the 2 Minutes podcast.
Do you know who I
am? Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
No, I've said like, I'm a consultant. They're like, oh.
No.
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, okay. The scan's not happening. It's like, no, it's not happening. I'm really sorry, mate, but the scan is definitely not happening. Not under my watch. Maybe call up teleradiology after 8 o'clock, and then that scan will go flying through. No worries, but definitely not on my watch.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's not the way these things.
Well, I guess kind of moving on to like, there was a tweet from Rosie, which I thought was kind of interesting. Although I guess our perspectives on it aren't going to be that useful, because she tweeted on the 11th of September. So this is Rosie Bauer, who was a guest on our podcast. Her handle is @RosieICM. And she said, and she's basically referring to this serialization of COVID. And there's a picture of, I think it's Kenneth Branagh or someone pretending to be Boris Johnson when he was in ITU.
Oh, right, and, yeah.
She's talking about how, the image basically of him on CPAP. And then I think the interesting thing was the number of comments from people where they were kind of talking about how kind of accurate it was. So like, for example, the position of the pumps and stuff. Although one of the things that I think most notably people said was inaccurate was the fact that he actually was on CPAP, whereas from what I understand, well, it's complete hearsay, was that he didn't actually require CPAP and that he was in that area for security purposes. But I guess I put it in because I kind of thought it was interesting because of the portrayal of the medical setting in serials. And I was kind of wondering, like, how hard is it to get that right? Like, do they need consultants, as in, I mean, kind of consultants as in expertise, I don't mean actual consultants, to kind of tell them about, the minutiae of how, the kind of accuracy of settings? And if they do, then I'd be very happy to do that for them.
just throwing out there. Throwing out there. Like, if you need any help with any TV or anything like that.
If you want to know how a pink cannula looks, I'll help you out. I'm your man. But what do you think of this picture then? Yeah. Do you think it sums up the hero? He's got his 2 thumbs up, which does seem very Boris Johnson-like. It makes me angry.
I mean, look, obviously, really, okay. I mean, at first glance, I think, it's Boris Johnson who's clearly unwell.
I think
yeah, I mean, that's as far as my head really went. But I guess, I mean, it's always interesting to me when people comment on like the way things look, how accurate things are, because medics love this stuff. I don't know if you remember that time when, who's that tennis player? I'm maybe a bit tired. The Scottish tennis player, Andrew Murray, had some surgery done, and he had a photo of himself with his thumbs up, saying like he's fine. And there were so many comments on MedTwitter about the placing of the cannula, placing of.
Oh, really?
Just so many people, like, some people even like downloaded and annotated the places where they didn't agree with. I think even we had a mutual friend message both of us actually and say something like, "Oh, that surgery was a bit controversial. what they actually did," and it's like,
really?
No one cares. And they're like, and I think no one cares, mate, and no one cares what you think, what I think.
Yeah,
it happened. They got the job done. He's happy. He's fine. Like, come on. There's so many ways to skin a cat, clearly, and he's alive and well. So let's not faff around too much about the way things look. But anyway,
you can tell I didn't care because I don't even remember that comment.
I just found it really fun. I just found, and this kind of stuff when I saw that picture, I took it, okay, fair enough. But then other people are like, oh, look at the way they place this, look at the way they place that. It's so accurate. Oh yeah, there's that too. Yeah, all right, cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I hope to see the day when they take a photo of a radiologist workspace, and I'll be able to say, "Oh, I don't know, you need to get a radiologist to come in and tell you how it really should
Yeah,
be." I
I'll be
mean,
happy
you
to
don't,
do it.
you know, yeah. I mean, I'd happily do it. I'd tell you the flux capacitor should be sitting right behind the desk, so that if
Yeah.
things go bad,
Yes.
you can go back in time. You need the coffee holder. You know, you need all these things to make it an accurate workspace for a radiologist.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do think there's one show where I did kind of find myself feeling impressed at the kind of portrayal of a situation, which was in The Fall. Have you seen that? So Jamie
I haven't seen
Dornan
that, no.
and Gillian Anderson. It's a really good show, mate. It's on Netflix. It was on BBC, and it's basically a kind of crime, like not kind of whodunit thing, but it's basically about a kind of serial killer, and Gillian Anderson's like, trying to find it. It's really good. Definitely recommend it.
Okay.
And there is a portrayal at some point of a kind of scene in A&E Recess. Not that I'm like an expert at that at all, but it was quite cool to see. Like there was a management of like a kind of acutely unwell patient, and it was quite cool to watch. I was like, oh no, that does have a kind of, like the sensation of, like when you're in the room and stuff's going on. It did have that kind of sensation there. So I remember thinking at the time, oh wow, this does kind of feel. But I can't say that I'm generally that fussed. I used to love Scrubs, and that was just, it just happened to be humor in the medical setting. But to be honest, it could have been really anywhere, couldn't it?
I mean, that's the only reason I could watch Scrubs, because it was more humorous than it was medical. For me personally, like it was just funny. When it gets too real, I don't really like it personally. Just like, well, I might as well just go to work and watch it happen for real.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think sometimes I've noticed, like, I think it was a Black Mirror episode that had these little metal bees flying around into people's ears or noses and stuff. And they did an MRI scan on the person. It's like, no, why would you do an MRI scan first? That's not a good idea.
See, I feel like the thing is for you is that you're not invested in it. But then you're like, but that's the radiology they've got wrong there.
Yeah, why have they done that? Yeah, well, hang on, why would they?
The magical magnet.
You normally go for a CT first, and then you like that. Why would you do that?
Whoa, guys! I do not accept. Who accepted that request?
I was going to write a strongly worded letter to Charlie Brooker. Excuse me, I know you don't give a crap, but I'm going to have to tell you something that you really need to know.
I would not have vetted that request. Yeah, absolutely.
Unless, well, in very specific circumstances, maybe working with teleradiology. But anyway, I got into a bit of trouble this week, didn't I, Trusha? You want to talk about that? Yeah. Is this time to talk about me getting in trouble?
It is. Was it trouble?
Did I get in trouble?
You got quote tweeted.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk about my bit, and then you can take over for a bit. So I think I was remembering something that happened to my wife the other day. I think she was driving, and then I think she parked on the side, and someone was driving past, and they beeped like crazy. They said they were very, very rude, and I was thinking to myself, like, would that have happened if she wasn't a visibly Asian lady with the hijab on? And imagine if there was like a really big butch guy. Would that person have a go at them? Would they think twice? Or imagine if they're in a Bentley, like a really big Bentley. Would they have shout at them? Or maybe if I had a police escort, would they shout at them? So I think, okay, so clearly there must be a reason why this person felt it was okay to have a go at my wife. But then obviously, like not obviously, but it suddenly crossed my mind. But what if it was racist? They saw the headscarf. I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a go at her because she's, or on some level, had a go at her because she's racist. But then I thought, imagine if there's someone out there that never has to think like this. There must be people out there who's never ever had to deal with that inkling feeling that you've been hard done by, you've had something bad happen, or someone's been very, very rude, and you never had to even consider the fact that, there's no racism because people can't be racist to you. Is that possible? So I did this tweet, and I said, I wonder what it's like to have a negative interaction and know that there's absolutely no way that your ethnicity or background played any factor in it. And I made it one because obviously I understand it's not just about being brown. I'm talking about, I'm thinking about sex, I'm talking about sexual orientation, all these things. Like if you are any of those things, if you fall into any of those demographics, then surely every negative interaction, it's going to play on your mind, isn't it? Like, oh, I wonder if it's because, I look like this, or I come from this, or I live like this. And that's what I was tweeting about. And then we had a person which I will not name, quote tweet me. And so they said, I wonder what it's like having a negative interaction and always assuming it's got something to do with your ethnicity and background. And I thought, okay, I see what you've done there. It's predictable, isn't it? So you've seen someone who looks like me saying that is it possible for people to live a life where you don't think like this? And he's saying, no, your problem is that you always think like this. Which basically is gaslighting the situations where I may or may not have been, and it's basically making me feel like
you're being unreasonable.
to think about, I'm being unreasonable.
Oversensitive.
But thankfully, people seem to agree with me.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So I liked your response, which is, I suspect it's something you've never had to go through, which is a nicer way of basically what I did. But you're basically calling out as white privilege there. And then you said, I haven't seen you crop up in a while. And might be an algorithm that has kept you away, so an anti-racism algorithm, but I hope you're well. And then you end it with kind regards, which I know is British for basically expletives. But he doesn't rise to
But that's the thing, like, I think I found it really fun because someone else had a dig at him as well, which I was quite pleased that people saw that and didn't like it. And someone said, look, this is one, so I cut it out. I print screened it and I cut it out. And I said, and someone said, dinosaurs will say anything these days. And he comes back, wisdom comes with age. And then he goes, so does dementia.
Yeah.
I thought it was brilliant. So I cut it out, but because I know Thrusha quite well, I thought he might get triggered by the initial interaction. So I purposely cut that out so that it wouldn't be involved and just put it so that he could see that there was an interaction where someone was called a dinosaur, someone came back with that, and someone came back with, so does dementia. What happened to you, Thrusha? Yeah. What did you do? I
obviously saw that. I wanted to know what the hell was going on. So I looked it up and then I saw it was this person and I lost it. So obviously you could see a whole load of like deleted tweets. But I think that in my defense, this is, and I've explained this, I mean, this is how, when I see people tweet, and maybe this is wrong, and this probably is a fault in my personality, but when people tweet stuff, I imagine it's like having a conversation, right? So I just, in my head, imagine it was like you telling your friends, I wonder what it's like to have a negative interaction and know that there's absolutely no way that your ethnicity or background played a factor in it. And you're just telling some people there. And then this person's quote tweeted you. So you can see what they've said. So it's almost like they're in the room with you, but they're not speaking at you. They're quoting you, but so you can see it, and they're saying it to their followers. So essentially, it's like they're having a separate conversation in a room where you can hear it. So they're saying it loud enough for you to hear. And he's basically just calling into question. And the other thing that kind of gets me is the use of always assuming it's got to be something, and that's not actually what you said. So like, so what is that? I mean, I found that really offensive, because this is part of the MO of this old fart, which is basically where they kind of they get called out and stuff, and they're like, "Oh no, I was just like a conversation," but it's like you're quote tweeting this person, so the implication is there that you're saying it about this person, that whenever Imran has a negative interaction, he's always assuming that's not even what he said. And I don't know. Are you mutuals? Are you friends? I don't know. I don't think so. So
no, we're not.
Exactly.
We're not.
So,
I mean, first of all, you shouldn't apologize for trying to stand up for your mates and also standing up for things that you believe in and stuff. So I don't think there's an issue there at all. But it was just I knew it was going to be triggering.
I was triggered.
Especially,
I had to put the phone
you were clearly triggered.
Yeah. Anyway, I went back to blocking.
Yeah.
But then I could see that there were obviously other people replying to like stuff that I'd said,
yeah.
and then I could see he was replying to it. Because I could see, like, this is from someone you've blocked, and he'd be like, I could see that he's blocked me, but I can't, he's carrying a conversation in my, and it's like, mate, that's because you're like quote tweeted someone that I follow. Do you know what I mean? Like, but he's kind of, this person. I mean, I should just assume, like, you shouldn't assume malice when you can just attribute it all to stupidity. So, and I think, so I'll just assume.
That's a good line.
Yeah, so I think I should just go back to the blissful ignorance that I'm in, whereby this person's blocked. I don't have to hear that bilge.
I think and I think a few people liked his quote, and
one person.
They were from
one person.
Oh, it was one person. Okay, so then but I mean they were from a similar. They was from a similar demographic. Yeah, similar demographic, and the problem is, like, I was raising. I think we've all done this. We raised a legitimate, what I think was a legitimate question, something to think about. And when you've never been in that situation, and we've spoken about this before, where you've never had a negative interaction having to do with where you're from. Unless you've lived life and you've never had anyone call you out for being brown, the Muslim, all those things. You'd have no reason to think that any interaction got anything to do with those things, because you've never been called out for any of those things. It's never happened. But I've said this before in the podcast. Like, I remember being called the color of poo from when I was in reception. It happened, like, and the kids were saying that. So I knew from that age onwards that I was not the same as everyone else, and I've got a bit of an odd color to everyone else. To the point that I used to actually close my eyes and imagine what I would look like if I was white. I used to look in the mirror and close my eyes and imagine what I would look like if I was white. These are the things that, you know, other people don't have to go through. They never have to even question that. It never came up. So that they'll never understand that. But
Yeah.
the sad thing is that they don't even want to understand that. They don't want to understand that. They're not even trying. And that's an issue. When someone says, "Oh, but how can I be an ally? How can I help?" The way you can help is by listening and not trying to argue it away, not trying to say that, you know, trying to explain it away as something else, and, you know, listen to someone's experience for what it is, and that's it. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's it. Just be aware.
So like there was a nice response. There was a nice response to it, which said unconscious bias should more accurately be described as entrenched assumption, and that was a kind of
that was a good
quote
one.
from John Amaechi, OBE. But it's just really interesting because those kind of traits kind of fit. You know, when people don't get it. I mean, I have to. The thing is that there's this really nice TikTok account that I started to follow, and it talks about dealing with narcissists. And the reason why I mention it is because often when you come across people like this on Twitter and on the internet, and I have to really fight the urge to argue with them. And I don't know why, like, sometimes that it kind of comes into it, because I know full well that one, either they don't have the kind of capability, you know, the tools to really understand your point of view, or two, they just don't want to, and they're just malicious, horrible people, and they want to goad you. And either way, engaging with them doesn't bring about any happiness. And there's a really good account. Oh gosh, can we like post it afterwards? The name of the account.
Yeah,
but, like,
I can post it. Yeah.
But interestingly, I think for me, I did get some comfort seeing one of their videos where they talked about the different traits of narcissism. And when they kind of like mentioned some of them, I was like, it made me think like, oh, it reminds me of that person, where it's kind of, it talks about how they're often described as quite kind of self-centered and manipulative in the way that they kind of, this person went on to say, oh, like, you know, saying of me, I've joined their conversation, when what they've done is joined your conversation, which really was about something that should have really generated sympathy and empathy, but instead they kind of decided to kind of flip it another way and make it seem like you were being insensitive and call into question your feelings, which is the opposite of empathy. And then when they're called out on that behavior, claim victimhood, which is making them centering themselves as, and I think kind of understanding that narcissistic personality trait, those traits really helped me actually, because in some ways I'm like, this person is, I mean, I blocked them and then unblocked them and then blocked them again. And
because I messaged you after, I was like, did you just unblock them so that you could interact with them and then block them again? You're like, yeah.
It's silly, I don't know, a moment of weakness.
Sorry, mate.
No,
it's all good. Yeah,
but like,
that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, it's just funny, isn't it? And I think if it can offer any peace to anyone out there, that it's difficult, isn't it? It's a battle sometimes. You want to change the world to make it better. But then sometimes I tell myself, well, sometimes you're replying not for that person. You're replying for other people who might read it, because, you know, it's good to see people being called out, especially if it's in a funny kind of humorous way, because essentially ridicule can make you feel at least like the world is kind of just because there's someone who kind of, like a cunning fox, is kind of, you know, got the upper hand or whatever. So I guess there's that. I don't know what the right way is. I guess in terms of kind of kind of mitigated narcissism, there has been a lot of kind of responses to Ariel, the Little Mermaid, the trailer, because obviously Ariel is being played by a black girl. And
we spoke about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah, but I just wanted to kind of like draw attention to a really nice thread where they've put together a series of reaction videos on TikTok, where just little black girls are watching the Little Mermaid trailer, and it's just delightful just seeing them kind of being represented, and so happy they are. So it was a tweet from at Norman Ination, so NORMANINATION and the number 4, and the tweet was on the September the 11th at 11:31 p.m. and there's basically a thread where they've just kind of put in a whole load of links to the different kind of TikTok videos, and some of them are so cute.
Their kids are absolutely gorgeous, aren't they? They really are. And this is what we were saying to each other earlier, like part of what's so wonderful to watch is, like, you know, when you take your kid out somewhere nice and you want to have that. I mean, part of the reason you take them somewhere nice is to get that reaction, of that wonderment, and you're watching them instead of watching the big show, whatever it is. So you get to watch that, plus the fact that they are finally kind of relating to what's on the screen. It's wonderful. Cool. It's wonderful. I'm probably gonna end up watching that again and again.
Totally.
It's so super cute. Super cute.
So like, I think because I've been watching them today, I was kind of humming the Little Mermaid song, like whilst I was doing Lily's bath, and Lily was like, are you humming the Little Mermaid? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, why? And I was like, oh, but she loves Little Mermaid. She's got the kind of little Tony box thing, which kind of like reads the story and plays with some of the songs at night. And I was like, oh, because there's going to be a new Little Mermaid movie. And she's like, oh, really? What, like another one? And I said, yeah, well, they're kind of remaking it. And I said, do you want to watch the trailer? And I just thought, oh, it'd be interesting to see what her reaction is. And of course, like, to her, it's complete, like, what is there to react to other than the fact that there's going to be a Little Mermaid movie? She's very excited. And so at the end of the trailer, she was like, can we see it tomorrow? And I was like, it says it's actually out in May 2023, which is next year. And she's like, so can we go next week? And I'm like, oh, she hasn't every real concept of time. Like, she doesn't understand that it's like a year down the line. And now it's really complicated. And then when at bedtime, she was singing some mermaid song. And then I'm like, oh God, she's going to just ask about that now every week until May 2023, I suppose.
Yeah, it's so true. And their concept of time is so, like, I told you, isn't it? Like my son, if you say yesterday, that could mean anything 5 minutes ago and last year. Like, he doesn't have a clue.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Oh, yesterday we did this. Like, oh, which yesterday is he talking about? Yeah, it could be anywhere between, a couple of seconds ago. Maybe.
Yeah, literally.
He's a bit like that. But it's surprising that people get triggered. Like, I saw loads of TikToks and tweets about the fact that they're using a black girl to be a mermaid. It's like, when would you get over the fact that we're talking about a mermaid? And then, he's got was it a crab that had a Jamaican accent, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
What's his name? The
Sebastian.
Station thing. Sebastian. And then you got Flan. I mean, look, there's so many things that are just not real. Like, none of it. Like, where do you want to stop? But it's the color of the skin that's making you feel a bit.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's funny though that it like ruins that's enough to like shatter their illusion, and like how it's okay for them that it's normal for us that the kind of default is a white person all the time. And then it's also like they're outraged at that, but then if you see, do you remember Ghost in the Shell, where they got Scarlett Johansson to play like to play like an East Asian character? I mean, that's ridiculous. Or like,
oh dude, that's gone on forever. Like what, Ben Kingsley being Gandhi.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what really broke my heart? Short Circuit.
Oh yeah, that was a white guy. Yeah, blacked up.
Yeah, I had no idea. I only found out recently.
I told you
recently.
Yeah, I told you that.
Did you tell me?
Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I think you may have told me, and I was like, "No, you're joking.
Yeah.
They can't have done that." Because when I was younger, there was literally no brown people.
Yeah,
on TV.
Exactly. He was like,
so when he came up, I was like, "Oh yes, we've got a brown guy on TV. I used to love it." And then you're telling me that he's
just putting on a terrible Indian accent.
Yeah,
doing it.
Like, wow, man.
So like, but that's okay. Or it's like in history. It's like, mate, something Ghost in the Shell was like a few years ago. Johnny Depp played a Native American. I mean, there are quite a few like different examples.
There's loads of examples. I love that kind of stuff.
One of the kind of most prominent examples, which I guess kind of fits quite well, is Jesus. The portrayal of Jesus as a white person. Right.
There's subtle reasons for that. I think we've spoken about before. Like,
Oh my God! No, but I saw this kind of like video of, and they were talking about because I think in one of his movies he gets Christian Bale to play Moses, who would have been kind of like of African origin. And when they asked, and he was like, yeah, I accept that that's kind of culturally inaccurate. But if I'd have got someone with Mohammed I couldn't release a major blockbuster feature with the lead star being Mohammed, what's his name? That's what Ridley Scott said. That when I saw that, I was like, it was he directed Aliens and Gladiator. And I was like, but I'm not going to lie, that left a real taste in my mouth. Like, what a thing to say. Like, imagine having those words just come out of your mouth and feeling like that's like an acceptable thing to say. Like that, we know loads of these people will have that thought in their head, but I said that in an interview, like, wow, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, that is sad. I mean, it just must depend on the kind of environment they're in and the people they hang out with. I mean, clearly, it's not just one person who feels like that. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gone all the way. Like there'll be a whole lot of people in the room that, yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is what we've got to do. I mean, these aren't small gigs. This is not the NHS putting a movie together. This is multi-million-pound industry who've all felt the same thing. So clearly, there's an agenda behind all of this stuff.
God, we need to end on some positivity, don't we?
Yeah, should we do a quick festival? I do realize that we do end up speaking about racism, and I was actually joking the other day that maybe we should just make it called rebrand the podcast This Week on Racism.
I know, God.
Yeah, but it keeps coming up. I mean, it's not something I particularly want to keep bringing up, but it keeps coming up. Sorry, yeah, and I guess yeah. I mean, when these things happen, you can't ignore it. And if we've got a platform, we might as well use it to try and talk about some things that maybe some of you guys wouldn't have thought about.
Yeah.
So should we go into something a bit more fun and then call it an evening?
Well, we should do the festival things, but there is also a drop mic thing from Aphrodite.
Oh God.
Yakovidou. I hope I said your name okay. So her handle is at Dr. Aphrodite ENT. So it says, to the male surgeon who I asked a letter of recommendation for my MSE. You called me at times overconfident, and you thought someone should have a frank conversation about how difficult it is to get into higher surgical training in ENT. Today, I CCT as an otolaryngology surgeon. Wow, that's a mouthful. So, Bosh, well done.
No pun intended. That is cool, isn't it? I mean, I think I was talking to my wife about this. Like when someone is female and they're very sort of forceful to get things done, they're seen as a bad thing. But if a male is like that, then they're seen like a good thing.
Yeah, like a go-getter.
And like a real go-getter. Like, oh, they're tough, but they go get the job done. It's a shame the perceptions are like that, isn't it? So yeah, should we finish on a quick festival then?
Yeah.
Which one? There was two, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So there was two.
Should we do one each, I guess? Do you want to do the top one?
Yeah, go on then. I'll do the top one then.
Yeah.
So top one was festival this week said, we recently purchased a £1,700 sofa from John Lewis. We complained about the sofa cushions being too big for the covers. They sent a new sofa, but we got the cushions to fit. We called and cancelled the replacement sofa, and it triggered 2 refunds. Thanks for the free sofa.
Nice work, isn't it?
That's nice. But you know what? I have to say, John Lewis, like customer service is unbelievable. I actually purposely go there. I know it costs more, but it's worth it all the time. And I think my sister-in-law bought some sort of TV cabinet. This weird situation happened where they replaced it, but they wouldn't take the other one back. So they ended up with like 2 cabinets. And they even told them, it was my sister-in-law, it was someone else. But they ended up with a dressing cabinet thing, and then they sent another one, and they ended up with 2. And even when they told them, look, do you want to take them on the back? They're like, no. But now I've got 2. And they had to just sell it. They had to sell it.
Really?
There was nothing else they could do.
Thanks.
I don't know whether it just cost too much to like transport it because it was big, and they were like, "No, we'll just cut our losses here."
Fair
But
enough.
that's the business model of John Lewis.
Yeah.
Is that they just cut their losses, like fine, whatever.
Yeah, it works like that, doesn't it? I used to think that way about Amazon Prime. I'm not sure if it's still like that way. But
oh no, they're phenomenal. I mean, it's all about definitely.
Like
I think my Kindle broke and it was out of warranty, and they gave me a new one, so don't worry about it.
Yeah. Right. I definitely I haven't had to complain about anything in a while, but it's literally that stuff just comes like so quickly, doesn't it? I remember being really impressed by how quickly they resolved stuff or do refunds and that kind of thing. Like,
no, I mean, speaking from a business perspective, like I've recently realized that whenever I think I mentioned this the other day, like whenever you do courses and stuff, it's better just to like offer refunds. And if anyone kicks up a fuss, just give the refund, because what you're essentially fighting for is very small, like peanuts, really. Yeah. And the more and someone who's going to be difficult about refunding a product that you really believe in, they're always going to ask for a refund, and they're never going to be happy. So they're always going to kind of, this email trail keep going. You can make them fill out all sorts of forms and explain. No point. As soon as there's like a slight hint of question of refund, just give it and move on with your life. And actually, overall, even though that you do full refund stuff, the general people, if you do offer a good product, don't ask for refunds because you're happy and your overall quid's in. So from a business perspective, it does make sense. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, the other one is a bit boring. So it's, having tried all brands of Weetabix, Lidl is my fave, as it soaks the milk up quickly. I think I really like this because I liked the idea that this person's like going through the different brands and just trying to find which one's the best one. So this, however, annoys my brand snob wife and will be my opening gambit come our inevitable divorce. Are you a brand snob? Or you don't
no, I don't think I am. I normally try and go for their own brands. I always go for the cheaper one, but I know Rabia tends to like brands. But I've got a friend who surprisingly has done exactly this. They've gone through every single Lidl, whatever, Aldi, every single brand, and knows which ones are exactly the same, if not better. So if I do need to know, I ask him and he tells me. All right, cool. At least I know now. But he's done all the hard work.
Lidl and Aldi baked beans, they're the best. I think they're kind of a bit more sugary. They taste nicer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I quite like baked beans.
You like baked beans? You might like the ice cream I've got. Baked beans.
Oh my God, I'm still going to get that off you, the custard one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
That's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Again. Yeah, I always appreciate everyone that listens. Everyone have a great week. Don't get cancelled.
Yeah,
and be nice to each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.